this time in episode 4 of Small Living. Sharon from the fermentory shares some quick and easy fermentation experiments suitable for even the smallest of kitchens. Jason from Plant Society returns to show us how best to take care of our plants at home. Our London contributor Celeste chats to Sjuul Cluitmans of Heren 5 about how we can make our cities and homes more livable, as well as answering some of our audience questions. First up, artist and maker Christina of Get Hands Dirty returns to teach us to design and build our own furniture using simple tools.
Hi, I'm Christina Felgueiras. I live in Porto, Portugal, and I'm the artist and maker behind Get Hands Dirty channel. I build lots of stuff with my own hands, and today I'm sharing with you how I made this pegboard shelving system that anyone can make with just a couple of tools. This is one of the easiest projects that you can make and is perfect for this lockdown period. I started by tracing alignment lines for the holes on this 21mm plywood sheet, and I will have a total of 24 holes, being 4 rows and 6 columns. Then I grabbed a strip of plywood that is smaller than the board and marked the center with a pencil along its length as well as on the tops. I also marked 1 centimeter away from the edge of the main board so that the strip can be aligned perfectly every time. This will be our template to drill evenly spaced holes. I used the drill press with a Forstner bit to make sure the holes come out perpendicular. If you don't have a drill press, it's fine, just drill them by hand as straight as you can. Now that I have the template with reference holes, I can carefully clamp the strip to the plywood sheet and drill a bunch of holes. Make sure to have a sacrificial strip on the underside to prevent the wood fibers on the back from tearing out. Then I could sand the surface and the sharp edges of the holes on both sides. Here I was using a long piece of plywood to make the small shelves, but you can use solid wood if you prefer. You can cut it with any saw you have around, even a handsaw works perfectly. I sanded everything smooth and cut 2 wooden dowels into smaller sections to make the pegs. These were 22mm in diameter and matched the size of the Forstner bit I used previously to drill the holes. You can stop right here and have a fully functional piece, but I was afraid that the shelves could roll off of the pegs. I found these little pieces of wood that will be perfect to avoid the shelves from rolling over. So I cut them shorter and sanded the ends to make them smooth. Now I can glue these little sticks in place and wait for the glue to dry before getting into painting them. You can finish your pegboard any way you want. You can use clear varnish to keep the wooden look or paint it any color you like. I gave it 3 coats of matte white paint as I was making this for a client and she wanted it white with wood natural pegs. The project is done and I don't really have a wall to try this out, but I managed to show you some arrangement possibilities. As for the wall installation, you can simply drive 4 screws into the wall to fully secure it. Thanks for watching and I hope you enjoyed this simple project. If you're interested in more videos like this, please visit my channel and go get your hands dirty.
Everyone seems to know about honey garlic, I think. It does stem from Japan and it has been used as kind of an immune boosting, and I think we could all do with that about now. Simply getting your honey and garlic and pouring it over. Now this can last, this can be fermented within 3 to 5 days, like this one that's just starting out. It's only about 5 days old. You see the honey gets quite liquidous straight away. There's gas in there too. Can you hear that? I can smell garlic, it's delicious. This one here is about 5 years old. Look at that, the rich colour of that. It's something that once you start eating this, you'll say, I want the old one to sprinkle or to drizzle over lamb chop, and the young one is more like to take when you've got a sore throat or to put over some blue cheese or something like that. So you'll know once you start doing it, the flavour that you're after, and you can reach for that garlic depending on the age. The garlic clove itself does soften and mellow with age, so this one I could grab the garlic clove and just mush it over a piece of toast or something, and it would taste caramelised and sweet and delicious, kind of a teriyaki flavour if you might, whereas this one would be quite pungent still. So we're just going to peel some garlic. It's a pretty fun thing to do around the table. If you're going to fill a jar with garlic, it can take quite some time to peel, like this. I'm going to pop some garlic in here. I think that's enough for now, and I'll just pour this honey over. People have asked me if they should keep adding honey and garlic to keep topping their brew up. I wouldn't recommend that. So what you want to do is just put enough honey in there to coat the garlic, and just watch it, because over the next 2 or 3 days, the honey is going to become so liquidous that you will want to move it. You want to move it around and make sure every clove is covered. Sometimes the cloves are going to float to the top, like this one. They're sitting on the top. It's fine, don't worry about it. Turn it over. It's kind of like a lovely thing to watch actually. Turn it over and just sit it like this, and then the next day come up and turn it over again. Just to make sure that the garlic is always covered and not getting oxidized. I mean, if you don't do that, nothing bad's going to happen. I have so many ferments going on in my house. I don't always do that flip it over thing. I don't always gas it. So if you've got airlocks, this is a good one to use them for, because honey becomes so lively, and that's what we're after, but also it can fizz out all over the place. You don't want ants and sticky mess. I don't want you hating me for teaching you this. So if you can get your hands on an airlock or one of those lids that would let gas out, that's your best bet. Simply, I love these jars actually, because you don't have to use them for fermenting. This is a pretty special airlock actually that I found. All right, so I'm just going to put a little bit of water in this. And what an airlock does, it lets gas out without letting any oxygen in. So it's keeping your vessel sealed. And I'll just let that sit and leave it and forget about it pretty much for the next week or two. And there you have it. You can use pomegranate seeds or nectarine, plum, peach, blackberries, you name it. Anything can go in honey. And if you can imagine the flavour that you want, seek it out. Hey, so if you're curious to learn more, you can find my book, Ferment for Good. The website's full of recipes, stories, things you can buy to help you on your way. There's a lot of stuff being added to it all the time. So check us out there at thefermentary.com.au, and I'll see you next time.
This episode of Small Living is sponsored by Raycon. Raycon makes really good earbuds. As people who are into small but beautifully designed things, they tick all the right boxes. We've been spending a lot of time on video calls, listening to podcasts and music at the moment, probably like you. And we've got to say, Raycon's everyday E25 earbuds do a great job. They look good, but most importantly, they have 6 hours of playtime and easy Bluetooth pairing. If you're anything like us, you lose things all the time, but the everyday E25 earbuds come in a great little charging case, which keeps them right where we want them when we need them. So, if you're on the lookout for a new pair of headphones, the Raycon earbuds start at about half the price of any other premium wireless earbuds on the market, so they're well worth a look. Thanks to Raycon, you can get 15% off your pair of everyday earbuds. Click on the link in the description. And thank you to Raycon for supporting Never Too Small and Small Living.
Today I'm going to run you through how to repot your plants at home. A lot of people are nervous about repotting because they're scared about killing them or doing the wrong thing. It's important to think about pot size before even thinking about what it looks like. Plants come in standard pot sizes and it's really important to pot up one size each time. So this will happily grow in there, but if I got this plant and planted it into a 1 meter wide pot, the plant would go into shock because it's way too big for the plant. And it's important to know what materials do to the soil in terms of drying out or staying too wet. So on the spectrum we have terracotta. Terracotta is typically porous so that the air dries out the soil from the side. So if you think about arid plants in the desert, it's perfect for plants like that. On the other hand, you've got plastic, which sadly is one of the more affordable materials. It preserves the water better, it's not porous, so it means your plants can thrive in the plastic pots as well. You've got a whole range of handmade ceramics now, as well as metal ceramics. These are great. Yes, some of them are less affordable than plastic. However, we like to use handmade ceramics to support the local community around us, but also as talking points in tangible areas. So on top of your dining table, coffee tables, whereas on a shelf up high, we might use a self-watering pot. And then knowing when to repot, some simple steps are looking under the pot to see if there's a root system, but also giving it a quick squish on the side to see if the soil stays intact. If it pops up loose, then it's most likely not ready to repot. However, you can see this one is coming out in its form, so we can tell it's ready to repot. What we need to do, I've chosen this planter for the height so that the Ripsalis can drape over as well. We're using a premium grade potting mix, so how you know it's a good quality mix is it should be free draining. The texture of it should be slightly coarse but not too fine, and it should freely drain through. So never skimp on potting mix because that's the main thing that will keep your plants alive as well. So the first step is to loosen the sides like so, and then flip it on its side, making sure to support the plant so you're not tearing it out, and sliding the pot out. So you can see there's a root system on there, it's keeping its form. But what I want to do is loosen a bit of that root system so that the root system doesn't get tangled in there. We're topping up the pot like so. And the aim is to get the soil level of the plant around 1 centimetre from the top, or the best measurement is your thumb, so you can actually have a thumb thickness. The reason for that is so when you water it, it doesn't overflow. So if I had potted it up like this, the water would overflow when I water it. So it's about planting correctly to minimise your maintenance time as well. So we're aiming for that distance from the top to allow for that water barrier. And put a bit more in. Once we've done that, I'm simply just backfilling and pressing down gently. You don't want to cram the soil down. You want to just get rid of any possible big air pockets that eventually when you water it will flush out anyway, but it's important to do it at the start. And we continue to backfill. And so you can tap it on the side as well, and that will level off the soil. And what we do now is we simply water it in straight away, and that continues to get rid of any big air pockets. And once that's done, you can put it back in its place and resume your normal watering cycle. Thanks for tuning in to learn more about greenery within your home. If you are after more information, head to our website. It's www.theplantsociety.com.au.
Today I'm speaking with Dutch architect Sjuul Cluitmans. Sjuul is a director at Heren 5, a studio that holds close the values of sustainability and urbanism. Never Too Small viewers will remember the feature on their loft apartment in Amsterdam. Hi Sjuul, how are you?
Hi Celeste, I'm fine, thank you.
What kind of design principles do you bring to the work that you do and the spaces you design?
One of the main important principles is that we never speak about just one single house solely, but more about a whole environment. So we really we're at our best to design whole living environments, and also the way people use these environment. So it's if there's going to be cars in them or not. So people, if there's not going to be cars in them, children can play outside safely. We like to solve also stuff like mobility, inclusiveness, and sustainability.
So sustainability seems to be like quite a big part of your work. You know, you're looking at the broader context within a project. How does your work focus on family and community living, and why is this?
We started this study about families already 10 years ago, because we noticed that these families are getting pushed out of the city because there was not affordable living space anymore, but even more important, the space which was there was not suitable for families to live in. And by studying on these groups, we gained new projects for real specific housing typology for these families.
And so break down for us the idea of the one family apartment. What principles have you applied to this design?
Yeah, there's a whole scope of design principles we use on them. During the course of time in apartment building, especially here in Holland, we forgot about who we're making these apartments for. So one of the important things is make a flexible apartment with a flexible construction, so you can always add rooms or take rooms out. And then also think about the rooms which are not specifically, normally not specifically as a room to live in. For instance, a hallway. We are always, we're used to making these hallways like the narrowest as possible. But if you make it a little bit more wider, it's also a great place for kids to run their bikes through or something like that.
I think when we apply family to the word home, we think of big,
yeah.
But really there's so much versatility in small spaces.
Yeah.
How do you approach the challenge of maximizing living in a small space?
That starts, I think, with taking off the standardization of it. So, for instance, in height, that's one of the key features also of our loft apartment, which is featured on Never Too Small. By using this standard height of 3 meters everywhere or even less, you're immediately taking away a lot of flexibility, because when you're not able, for instance, to stack functions on top of each other, you're also not able to maximize this space. So as what we did in the loft was stacking this bed sleeping function on top of a kitchen, which created a really open plan for living on the facade side, on the light element of the apartment. It's not a really big space. It felt spacious.
As multi-generational living is on the rise, what are the kind of factors that are driving this change? Why are families beginning to come back and live together?
Of course, property pricing is one of the big issues as well here, but I think there's also a strong need for more generations to spend more time to each other. What's really common here is that grandpa and grandma are a really essential part, more and more, of raising a child. So parents, of course, have to work longer, more, and then they're all struggling with how to raise a child and also do daycare. We even designed some apartment blocks where you have multi-generations living together. So you have these elderly people, you have families, and you have singles. And what's really nice about these different groups in one block is that they can really help out. So like an elderly can help a family with taking care of the children, but the other way around, the family can cook sometimes for the elderly who live there. We're going to see this much more. So not this solely just one functionality in housing, but more these mixed blocks with mixed types of apartments is going to be working.
Well, as spaces or homes do become smaller and our cities become more densely populated, what are the main issues that we need to confront in an urban design sense as we plan cities?
I think first of all more green and more biodiversity in cities, because if the cities get more dense and the temperature gets up, we won't be able to keep it a nice climate in these cities. In the future, probably we're not going to see this private or element of having this car again, but you're really going to rent it. In a lot of cities, it looks as if it's for the rich and famous. It brings one type of people into it, What we noticed when we're doing this study for the families is that a family is like the mortar of a brick wall for the city, because they use a lot of facilities which are vital, like the schools and all culture stuff, but also shops and stuff like that. And if you take these elements out, like families or for instance elderly people, if you take them out of the city, you just get a monoculture. You just get a one type. And I think in the end, that's also not a durable way of that it works for a city.
How can families furnish small apartments without introducing clutter?
If you make a hallway, for instance, not as narrow as possible, but as big as possible, and you can integrate a lot of cupboard space to it, and so it can be used as a playing area, but it can also be used as this big storage area.
And now our final question, do you ever have concerns that a space is designed too specifically for one person or family's use? And how do you accommodate that idea when designing a space?
I don't think it can be too specific. I think the more specific, the better. The big issue now is that everything is so standard and not really suited for a certain group. Some houses are not even accessible for people in wheelchairs and stuff like that. In designing this house of apartment, make sure you think of flexible construction. Make sure you think of columns instead of walls. In thinking of how you design the facade, so you can always alter it in a later stage. And then please be as specific as possible for the interior of a house, because that's what people are going to use and what they're going to live in for a really long time.
Thank you so much for talking to me. It was a pleasure to hear your insights.
Thank you.
Next episode, we'll speak to Jack Chen, creator of the Type Street apartment, and share some more ideas for your time at home. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell to receive updates on our next episode. For more detail on the features within Small Living, go to www.nevertoosmall.com.